Well, it turns out more conservatives and Republicans are turning on the president than we've seen since he first announced he was running for president in 2015. And the more he tanks in the polls, the more they seem to rediscover their common sense after a 10-year drought of the stuff. I'm Jonathan Burton, and I was a lifelong Republican up until the time Trump came riding down that golden escalator in 2015. And I just couldn't do it. Couldn't vote for him, couldn't support the party who made him their nominee. He's a very dangerous man and a very dangerous president. So I fully support electing as many Democrats to office this year as possible, even though I still don't agree with them on some things. But none of those things are as important as the threat facing this nation coming straight from the White House. And this week has been a big one. Peggy Noonan torched Trump in the Wall Street Journal. West Point combat vet called the Secretary of Defense a performance artist. A former Republican Speaker of the Texas House is warning his own party is about to lose the House. And Tucker Carlson went to the New York Times and apologized. So, what set all this off? What set all this into motion? I believe it's the polls, for one, not just that he's at an all time low right now, which makes it pretty undeniable that he's not doing well because he is so low. They used to look at these polls and say, well, the fake polls, or you can't believe the polls, or whatever. They're so low now. They're too low to deny. But it's not just that he's at an all-time low right now, but that he has been consistently trending downward for more than a year. And so everybody's taking a second look at these polls and they're starting to believe them, the politicians especially. And they're believing them because one, they're so bad, and two, they've been so consistent for the last year, and three, it's one more reason, and this is the big one, because Republicans have been losing elections all over the country since this past November. And if you're a politician, or if you're a thought leader, or a media figure, you can see, they know, I mean, the one talent and skill they all have is they know how to keep their hands on the pulse of the people. So the one thing they can feel, like they know it in their bones, is which way the wind is blowing. And you never, if you're in that position, if you're a political leader, any kind of public personality, you never want to be on the wrong side of your audience or your voters. So all these people are coming out of the woodwork now, suddenly seeing the light that we all saw more than 10 years ago, and claiming they just didn't know. They just didn't know, but now they're starting to see. With Tucker Carlson, I appreciate that he's apologizing. The big thing is it doesn't really matter whether they mean it or not. It matters whether they say it publicly, because when he says it publicly, he gives his audience the freedom to know that, well, yeah, it's okay now. It's like giving them permission. It's okay to move away from Trump now. But for someone like Tucker Carlson to say they didn't know, he was so close to everything that was going on. He could not have not known. And in fact, we know he didn't, because the text messages that came out during that trial, what was it, Dominion Voting Systems, the lawsuit against Fox News, where they uh, settled for almost $1 billion from Fox News. Uh, the text messages between, I remember specifically between Carlson and Sean Hannity. I mean, these guys were like, Trump's an idiot. He lost the election. We're going to be lying to our audience. And then they agreed, well, we have to lie or we'll lose our audience. It was all about keeping their power, keeping their position, keeping their influence, and keeping their big, huge incomes. And now they tell us, oh, now they're starting to see. Interestingly, as the wind starts shifting in the other direction, not among the American people, but among MAGA people, the wind is shifting and they're feeling that. So now that the polling evidence is conclusive, and now that there's one more important reason, more and more MAGA voters are starting to coalesce around the idea that Trump has broken faith with them and that he's broken big promises like not releasing the Epstein files and no new wars. So they now have the perfect justification to explain why they're leaving at this point without offending their MAGA voters and their MAGA audiences, because they can say, look, we're leaving not because we've turned against MAGA principles. We're leaving because we hold to MAGA principles, but basically the president has turned against them. So we're leaving him because he has betrayed us. For our purposes, though, the main thing isn't why they're leaving, but that they're leaving. Whatever the reason is, the main thing is that they are publicly declaring it. That's really important. And they are publicly telling their followers and their fans that it's okay to no longer support this president. And that's going to peel a lot of MAGA voters away from voting MAGA in November. It doesn't mean a lot of them will vote for Democrats, but some will. Uh, More probably, though, what will happen is a lot will just stay home, which that's a win for us too. I look, I don't care. I don't care if Republicans lose votes because their voters vote Democrat or because they stay home. I don't care and don't vote at all. I just care that they lose votes, and that's what we got to work for. It's all about peeling a small slice of votes from different segments, like from the Hispanic voters that voted for him last time, and the black voters that voted for him last time, and the evangelical Christian voters who voted for him last time. It's peeling a few percentage, a couple of percent from each one of these groups. And that's what we got to do. We don't have to convince every single supporter to change their mind. Don't get frustrated when you go out and talk to people and they just won't change their minds. That's okay because we don't have to convince everybody. Literally, just a few percentage points of different groups. That's all we got to do, and then we can take this in November. So let's take a look at our first example, though. And all of these people, all of these Republicans mostly, who are subtly but publicly slowly turning against the president. All of these have happened in just the last few days. First up is Representative Pat Ryan, Democrat of New York, a West Point grad and an Army veteran who served in Iraq as an intelligence officer, a man who knows the U.S. military inside and out, a man who has more military knowledge than every person in the Trump administration combined, including the president himself, obviously. And this week, after Pete Hegseth fired two senior Navy admirals in the middle of an active war, Ryan went on Capitol Hill and called the Secretary of Defense a joke. Check this out. From the, oh gosh, sorry. I put this in a different view, but yeah, I believe this, oh yeah, this is from Raw Story. Okay, I was going to say the Wall Street Journal. This is from Raw Story. Anyway, it says, knows he's a joke. Capitol Hill goes nuclear on Hegseth after mid-war score settling. Weak sauce, a joke, a performance artist. That's how a West Point grad and Army vet on the Armed Services Committee described Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth, who is running the Department of Defense in the middle of a war. Uh, Representative Pat Ryan, Democrat of New York, didn't mince words Wednesday after Hegseth fired Navy Secretary John Phelan, effective immediately with no explanation given while U.S. warships actively blockaded Iranian ports. It's more score settling, the revenge hour, in the middle of a war, in the middle of a naval blockade, he lamented to Raw Story. Ryan added, he pretends to be tough, but has the thinnest skin and is weak sauce. Yeah, it's kind of a strange expression, weak sauce. Not sure, I guess it means he's weak. He knows he's in, and this is true. I'm not just saying. He knows, like every military officer and senior leader knows he's a joke and he's a performance artist. So they all don't take him seriously. That's from a West Point combat vet on the record calling the Secretary of Defense a joke. Now, MAGA people will come out and say, well, of course they criticize him because they're Democrats, but not so fast. Of course he criticizes him because he's a Democrat, but not so fast because it's not the fact that he criticized him. It's the fact of how bluntly he criticized him. This isn't normal. This isn't normal partisan noise. Okay, next up is Dade Phelan. This is weird. We have two men with the last name of Phelan, a very unusual last name, in the news at exactly the same time. So there's John Phelan, the Navy secretary who just got fired, and now there's Dade Phelan, a Texas Republican and former two-term Speaker of the Texas House, who's now a state representative out of Beaumont. He's the kind of hardcore Texas conservative who, until about 5 minutes ago, was a load-bearing wall of the Republican Party. But he just told the Wall Street Journal that his own math shows that uh, Texas alone, get this, Texas alone could lose enough Republican seats in November to flip the US House to the Democrats. Texas alone. Crazy, right? And what a sweet irony that would be. After, let's let's get Texas to redistrict and turn all these districts Republican. And how great it would be if it was Texas that lost them the majority on its own by itself. That would be amazing. I would love that. That would be a delicious irony and a delicious victory over totalitarianism, the attempt at totalitarianism in this country. All right, now this one's from the Wall Street Journal. Republican nerves are fraying ahead of midterm elections. Republican officials are sounding the alarm and urging significant changes ahead of November's midterm elections, worried that the war in Iran and Democratic enthusiasm could lead to a blowout. Now, I'm not worried about that. I think that can happen. In some places, they fear it might already be too late. Yeah, I would say so. It's pretty much too late. So, listen to this. They're trying to blame little people who nobody's ever heard of. Several top Republicans in Wisconsin have called the state GOP chairman to resign, have called on the state GOP chairman to resign after a state Supreme Court election last week resulted in a liberal candidate, get this, beating a conservative one by 20 percentage points. So what do? They're calling on the GOP chair to resign. But it's not his fault. This liberal candidate won because of what Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. This got nothing to do with the state chairman of Wisconsin. But, they can't blame Trump. They can't blame Trump. This is what always happens in cults, by the way. When things go wrong, the leader never gets blamed. It's always some underling who, a lot of times nobody ever heard of. So it's his fault. This guy has no more to do with what happened there than I do. In Arizona, another of the nation's most politically competitive states, some Republicans are openly questioning the effectiveness of one of the party's top outside groups after it failed in its recent effort to win majority control of a Phoenix area utility board. Not a good sign. But again, it's not the fault of the top outside group either. They had nothing to do with it. You hire these people, chairmen, outside groups, whatever, thinking they'll solve our problems, they'll fix our elections, and we'll start winning. And then when you don't win, you fire them. But it's literally not their fault in this case, I have to say. Trump hasn't delivered on his affordability promises, said Orrin Cass, chief economist at American Compass, a conservative think tank. So here's another conservative group turning against the president and publicly speaking out against him. And this is all good. This is real good stuff. He hasn't been governing in a way that would lead your typical American to believe he is, in fact, focused on delivering solutions to their challenges. Yep, got that right. Oh, yeah, check this out. Vice President J.D. Vance told Republicans in Georgia this week that it's preposterous that their party would suffer steep midterm election losses. Can you imagine? Preposterous. Well, get ready for some preposterity. It's coming your way, JD. All right. Now, what's this guy's name? Patrick. The day after the Arizona election. Oh yeah. That Patrick, the lieutenant governor in Texas. Patrick sent. Now he is mega, 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 MAGA. Okay, he sent shockwaves through political circles when he warned we're gonna have a tough time holding the Texas House if Republicans can't come together after the nasty U.S. Senate primary. So they got a big problem down there with John Cornyn and let's see, had the other guys. Oh yeah, Ken Paxton, running against each other in the Republican primary to become the Senate candidate. And Trump has not endorsed either one, and they were begging him to endorse Cornyn because they see him as more electable statewide, and he won't do it because he likes, of course, Ken Paxton, who's incredibly corrupt, and Trump is incredibly corrupt. And he is just attracted to corrupt people like a fly is to a bright light at night. Now, here's the other Phelan guy. Dade Phelan, a Republican Texas state representative, said he had recently spent spare time playing with political calculation tools. Some estimates show at least 8 state Texas House seats flipping in November and possibly up to the 14 needed to swing the majority to Democrats. Texas alone could swing the majority to the Democrats. These people are worried and they're speaking out publicly and they're saying things that a few months ago they never would have said in public. All right. When Trump attacked Pope Leo and posted that AI image of himself as Christ, Phelan didn't stay quiet. He posted on X that, get this, this guy, Dade Phelan, posted that Donald Trump just attacked the Pope because he simply asked for peace. Oh, good, Dade. Glad you came around to see that. But the fact that these types of people are saying those types of things in public, that shows a real break with the president. That is a big, huge thing. And it really gives their followers and their voters permission to break from the president as well. Anyway, Dade Phelan is a sitting Republican in one of the reddest states in America trying to pull the fire alarm before the building collapses on top of him. But in November, we have to remember Trump didn't get here and he didn't stay here all on his own. And he's not able to do all the damage he's done so far all on his own. Everything Trump is doing right now is happening because Republicans in Congress for 10 straight years have never once stood up to him because they are greedy for power, pusillanimous cowards. They're willing to sell out the country for their own seat at the table. So let's vote them all out. Let's just vote them all out. Trump isn't on the ballot this year, but every Republican in the House is, and a third of the Senate is. And almost every one of them chose to enable this for a decade. We can't put Trump out of the office this year, but we can put every Republican in the House and a few in the Senate out too. It's going to be up to us to put this monster out to pasture in November. Okay. We got a lot of work cut out for us. But the main thing I think us regular people can do is just get out there and talk, be on social media, answer those people, respond to them, and put out your own arguments about why you're not going to support him. All right. All right. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Go put a smile on someone's face. I'll see you next time. Take care.